All right, let's jump right into MCDP 7,
Ooh, MCDP 7,
focusing on Chapter 3,
Chapter 3, yeah.
the learning environment. So we can give you,
A good one.
yeah, a really solid understanding of how the Marine Corps approaches training and development for combat. We could
Yeah.
say up front, this isn't just about theory.
Right, right.
It's about giving you the tools
Exactly.
to think like a Marine and to really thrive in some of the most challenging situations.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the key takeaways from this chapter is it goes beyond memorizing facts and figures.
Right.
It's about building a mindset, a way of thinking that can truly mean the difference between success and failure in a real-world operation.
Okay, so let's dive right into the first big idea, the learning environment. And the chapter makes it really clear that it's way more than just a classroom, right?
Yeah, I mean, think of it this way. Everything that shapes how you learn as a Marine is part of that learning environment. And that includes, the obvious things like training methods, technology, but it also encompasses the culture of your unit, the instructors who guide you, and even the bonds that you form with your fellow Marines.
That makes total sense because the Marine Corps is all about camaraderie and teamwork,
Right.
right? It's not just about your individual skills. It's about how all of those skills mesh together within a unit.
And Chapter 3 really emphasizes that. It stresses that the learning environment needs to be tailored to the specific needs of individuals and units.
Right.
So there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
So it's about adapting the training to the mission at hand,
Absolutely.
environment and the Marines involved.
Precisely. And this leads us to another, I think, really crucial point that the chapter stresses, the need to train against an opposing will.
Okay, what exactly does that mean?
That means training against a thinking, adaptive enemy, right? Whether that's a simulated opponent in a training exercise or a real adversary on the battlefield, Marines need to be prepared to face an enemy that's constantly trying to outmaneuver and outthink them.
Okay, so it's not just about drilling static scenarios
Right,
where
right.
you know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, you've got to be
The
that.
training needs to be more dynamic, more unpredictable.
Exactly. You got to push Marines outside of their comfort zones, force them to think critically and adapt to these unexpected challenges.
Right.
And this is where brilliance in the basics comes into play.
And I've heard that term before,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure I fully understand it.
It means mastering those fundamental tactics and skills so thoroughly that you can improvise and adapt when the plan inevitably changes in the heat of battle.
Okay.
Kind of like, a musician who can improvise a solo because they've mastered the scales and chords.
Right, right.
You've got that foundation.
Yeah, so you're building that foundation of skills and knowledge that allows you to be flexible and creative in those challenging situations.
Precisely.
Mhm.
And this connects to another key idea that the chapter introduces, the concept of surfaces and gaps.
Surfaces and gaps. All right, I'm intrigued. What are those?
So think of surfaces as your existing strengths, the areas where you excel. Maybe you're a crack shot with a rifle. Maybe you're a natural leader. These are your surfaces.
Right, your strengths to build upon.
Yeah, exactly. Gaps, on the other hand, are your weaknesses, the skills or knowledge you need to improve. Maybe you struggle with land navigation or communication.
Ah.
Those are your gaps.
So the idea is to honestly identify those strengths and weaknesses
Right.
and not try to hide those gaps.
Be honest with yourself, right.
So you can work on improving.
Exactly. And the chapter encourages Marines to leverage their surfaces to address their gaps.
Oh, okay.
So let's say, for example, you're an excellent marksman, but you struggle with land navigation.
Okay.
You could use your understanding of range estimation, something that you're already good at because of your marksmanship skills,
Okay.
to help you visualize distances on a map and improve your navigation.
So you're using what you're good at
Right, exactly.
to help you with what you're not as good at.
You're connecting those dots, building on your strengths to overcome your weaknesses.
That's really clever.
And, the chapter emphasizes that this learning process isn't confined to formal settings. It's about having a warrior-scholar mindset.
So it's not just about training on the range or in the classroom, right?
Yeah.
It's more than that.
Not at all. It's about constantly seeking out those opportunities to learn,
Wow.
whether you're in garrison, deployed, or even just, kicking back on a ship.
So what would that look like in practice?
It could involve, having those tactical discussions during travel.
Right.
Maybe using downtime for professional reading or simulation training, even, analyzing historical battles to see what you can learn from the great commanders of the past.
That makes sense because you never know when or where that next learning opportunity might appear.
Exactly. So be ready to seize it. The chapter really wants Marines to understand that learning is a continuous process, a lifelong pursuit.
And this brings us to, I think, one of the most exciting points of the chapter, the emphasis on force-on-force exercises. This is where the rubber meets the road, right?
Absolutely. Whether it's a live field exercise or a sophisticated simulation, the chapter emphasizes the importance of training as realistically as possible. And this is about more than just going through the motions.
So you're saying it's about experiencing the pressure, the friction, the need to make those split-second decisions
Exactly.
when things are going sideways, just like they would in a real operation.
Exactly. And, the chapter outlines different approaches to force-on-force training.
Okay.
You can have those scripted red forces to test that mastery of basic tactics.
Right.
Or you can have adaptive red forces that force you to think on your feet and adapt to those unexpected enemy actions.
And then there's the ultimate challenge, right?
Yeah.
The free play scenario,
Right.
where both sides are learning and adapting in real time.
That's intense.
Now, the chapter doesn't shy away from the role of technology
Right.
in training,
It's a tool.
but it makes a really critical point. It's a tool. It can't replace human judgment, human adaptability.
It's like having a fancy new rifle with all the latest gadgets, but if you don't know how to shoot, it's useless.
It's useless, yeah.
The tool is only as good as the Marine using it.
So it's about using technology strategically, right?
Yeah.
To enhance learning, to provide access to information, to create more realistic training simulations.
Absolutely.
But always remembering that it's the Marine,
Right.
the human
The
element,
human element, exactly.
that's at the center of it
the
all.
most important part.
This brings us to another key concept from the chapter, the learner-centric model. So what exactly does that mean?
It means that the focus of the learning process is on the individual Marine, right?
Okay.
Instead of a rigid instructor-driven approach, the learner-centric model empowers Marines to take ownership of their own development.
So it's kind of like a good leader in combat, provides guidance and support, but also trusts their Marines to figure out the best way to get the job done.
Exactly. And this approach, as the chapter highlights, has some major benefits. Increased engagement,
Okay.
faster learning, and the chance to explore areas of personal interest, which can lead to greater mastery of the subject.
And it sounds like this ties directly into another concept that the chapter emphasizes, self-directed learning.
Absolutely. Self-directed learning is about taking initiative,
Okay.
identifying your learning needs,
Right.
setting goals, and finding the resources to achieve those goals.
So almost like mission tactics
Yeah,
applied to learning.
it is, yeah. You're given the objective,
Okay.
but you figure out the best path to get there.
That's a powerful way to think about it, right? It really encourages Marines to be proactive, resourceful.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it helps develop those crucial skills, critical thinking, problem solving, the ability to evaluate information from multiple sources. It's not about passively absorbing knowledge, it's about actively engaging with it,
Yeah.
questioning it, and making it your own.
Which, if you think about it, is really essential for a Marine leader who might have to make those critical decisions based on limited information in a rapidly changing environment.
You hit the nail on the head. That's the essence of what Chapter 3 is trying to instill in Marines, that ability to think critically, adapt to any situation, and take charge of their own learning journey.
So far, this has been incredibly insightful.
Yeah, great chapter.
And it's clear that MCDP 7, and specifically Chapter 3, is all about building Marines who are not just warriors, but thinkers,
Right.
learners, and leaders.
Exactly. And we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to unpack in this chapter,
All right.
including powerful tools like vicarious experience and mental imagery, which we'll delve into in part 2 of this deep dive.
So before the break, we were talking about self-directed learning and how it empowers Marines to really take control of their own development.
Right.
But the chapter goes even deeper than that and explores some really fascinating techniques for learning, like vicarious experience.
Yeah, it's a powerful concept. Essentially, it's the idea of learning from the experiences of others, right?
Right.
And especially in a profession like the Marine Corps, where you can't physically practice every possible scenario.
Right. You can't go through every single thing that could happen.
Exactly.
So being able to absorb those lessons learned by others,
Yeah,
both past and present, is invaluable.
it really is.
Okay, so how does that actually work in practice? How can a Marine actually gain this vicarious experience?
Well, the chapter provides some great examples.
Okay.
Reading historical battle accounts is one way, right?
Okay.
Seeing how commanders in the past dealt with challenges, the decisions they made, the consequences, both positive and negative.
Wow.
It's like having a front row seat to history's greatest lessons.
It's like learning from the best,
Oh,
right?
exactly.
Even across centuries.
Across centuries, exactly.
Okay. And it doesn't have to be ancient history either, right?
No, not at all.
You can look at after-action reports
Yeah, exactly.
from current operations,
Mhm.
or even just talk to more experienced Marines.
Right, mentors.
Mentors, exactly.
Those can provide incredibly valuable insights, too.
It can.
It's about tapping into that collective knowledge base that the Marine Corps has built
Oh, yeah.
over generations.
Over generations. That's a great point.
Yeah.
So it's not just about reading a book or listening to a lecture.
Right.
It's about actively engaging with those experiences. Asking yourself, what would I have done in that situation?
That's a key part of it. Reflection.
Okay.
Really taking the time to process what you've learned, connect it to your own experiences, and then think critically about how you would apply those lessons
Yep.
in your own decision-making.
So it's like building a mental library of experiences, even if you haven't personally lived through them all.
That's a great way to put it. And, along with vicarious experience, the chapter highlights another powerful tool, mental imagery.
We touched on this briefly before,
Yeah.
but I'm really eager to dive deeper.
Let's-
Essentially, it's using your imagination to prepare for combat.
Right. Precisely. Visualizing yourself in different scenarios,
Okay.
mentally rehearsing your actions,
Right.
anticipating enemy responses. It's like running a simulation in your mind.
So, for example, if a Marine is about to lead a patrol through a hostile urban environment,
Yeah, good example.
they could use mental imagery to kind of walk through that mission step by step,
Yeah,
play out different possibilities in their mind.
exactly. Imagine encountering an ambush, right? Visualize the chaos and confusion and rehearse how they would react under pressure.
Oh, yeah.
What commands would they give?
Right.
How would they maneuver their squad? By mentally preparing for these high-stress situations, Marines can build confidence
Okay.
and improve their ability to make sound decisions under fire.
So it's almost like practicing for a big game.
Mm.
The more you rehearse,
Yeah, exactly.
the more prepared you are
Right.
when the actual game arrives.
That's a great analogy.
And the chapter even suggests that mental imagery can reduce stress and improve performance in these real-world situations.
It can, yeah. By mentally preparing for the unexpected, you're less likely to be overwhelmed
Right.
when things don't go according to plan.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And this all ties back to what we discussed earlier
Mhm.
about the opposing will concept.
Right.
That enemy is constantly adapting,
They are.
trying to outthink you.
Mm-hmm.
So Marines need to develop their own mental agility, right,
They do.
to kind of stay ahead of the curve.
Absolutely. And one of the best ways to do that is through continuous learning and development.
Okay.
The chapter really drives home the point that learning in the Marine Corps is an ongoing process, right? It's
Right.
not something that stops after boot camp or MOS school.
Right, it's a lifelong pursuit.
Exactly. It's about constantly seeking out new knowledge, challenging your assumptions, and pushing yourself to grow as a Marine
Huh.
and as a leader.
And as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And the chapter provides a great example of how this might play out
Mm-hmm.
in a real-world scenario.
Yeah.
Imagine a group of Marines
Mm.
on ship deployment.
Okay.
Instead of just watching movies or playing cards during downtime,
All right.
they could use that time for professional development.
They could.
They could be engaging in simulation training,
Mm-hmm.
reading military history books,
Yeah.
or even just having in-depth tactical discussions with their fellow Marines.
Exactly. It's about turning those seemingly mundane moments into opportunities for growth and learning.
I like that.
And the chapter makes it clear that this mindset isn't just for junior Marines either, it's for everyone,
Right?
from the newest recruit to the most senior leader.
Because as the saying goes, there's always something new to learn,
Always something new to learn.
especially in the constantly evolving world of warfare.
Precisely. And while individual responsibility for learning is essential, the chapter also highlights the crucial role that leadership plays
Right.
in creating a culture of learning within a unit.
So it's not enough for leaders to just bark orders and expect them to be followed blindly.
Right.
They need to be actively involved in fostering that learning environment,
I do.
providing guidance, resources, and setting the example for their Marines.
Absolutely. Leading by example is crucial.
Yeah.
If a leader demonstrates a commitment to continuous learning,
Okay.
to seeking out new knowledge, to challenging their own assumptions, it sets a powerful tone.
It does.
for the entire unit.
It really does, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's about creating that culture
Mm-hmm.
where intellectual curiosity and professional development are valued and rewarded.
Exactly. And the chapter directly links the quality of leadership to the quality of learning within a unit.
Okay.
When leaders prioritize learning, it translates into better decision-making, greater adaptability,
Right.
and ultimately increased effectiveness on the battlefield.
And speaking of effectiveness, the chapter really challenges the traditional view of assessments, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
It's not about passing or failing,
Right.
but about using assessments as opportunities for growth.
That's a key takeaway, yeah.
Okay.
The chapter encourages Marines to see assessments not as punishments, but as valuable feedback mechanisms.
Right.
It's about identifying those strengths and weaknesses,
Okay.
both individually and as a unit,
Right.
and then using that information to focus training efforts and improve performance.
There's like a continuous feedback loop, right?
It is.
Designed to ensure that Marines are constantly learning and adapting.
Exactly. And this feedback needs to be delivered in a way that's constructive and actionable.
Okay.
It's not about tearing someone down, but about providing specific, targeted guidance that helps them improve.
Okay.
It's about turning those mistakes into learning opportunities.
The chapter even encourages Marines to see those errors and failures as a natural part of the learning process.
It does, yeah.
It's about embracing those moments, analyzing what went wrong, and using that knowledge to get better. That's a powerful mindset shift,
Right.
especially in a profession where the stakes are so high.
It is. But by creating a culture where it's okay to fail,
Okay.
where learning from those failures is encouraged, you actually reduce the likelihood of making those same mistakes in the future.
Right, which can ultimately save lives
Exactly.
on the battlefield.
On the battlefield.
And alongside this emphasis on continuous learning and constructive feedback, the chapter acknowledges the increasingly important role that technology plays in the modern learning environment.
It does.
But as we discussed before, it's crucial to remember that technology is a tool,
Right.
not a replacement,
Right.
for human judgment, critical thinking, and adaptability.
The chapter uses this analogy of a wrench and an engine,
Okay.
which I think perfectly illustrates the point.
Okay, I like it.
The wrench, like technology, can be incredibly useful,
Right.
but it's useless in the hands of someone who doesn't understand how an engine works.
So it's about using technology strategically
Yeah.
to enhance learning, to provide access to information,
Right.
to create more realistic training simulations.
Oh, no. Absolutely.
But always remembering that it's the Marine,
Right.
the human element,
The human element.
that's at the center of it all.
Exactly. The most important part.
The technology serves the Marine, not the other way around.
Right.
And the chapter gives some really compelling examples
Yeah. That's all
of how technology can be used effectively to improve training. For example, simulations can be used to practice calling for supporting arms,
Yeah.
which is something you can't always do
No.
in a live fire exercise.
Not safely.
Simulations can also be tailored to specific scenarios,
Right.
creating incredibly realistic training environments
Yeah.
that help Marines develop the skills they need to operate in these complex, high-stress situations.
Exactly.
And the chapter also highlights the potential of technology to provide that personalized feedback, right?
Yes.
Tracking individual performance in training, identifying areas where a Marine needs to improve.
It's like having a virtual coach, you know?
Yeah.
Providing that tailored guidance and support.
All of these elements, the focus on continuous learning, the emphasis on constructive feedback,
Right.
with a strategic use of technology,
Yeah.
all of these come together to create a force that's not just physically tough,
Right.
but also intellectually agile, ready to adapt, to innovate, and to overcome any challenge they face.
That's the goal.
It's about building Marines who are not just warriors,
Right.
but thinkers, learners, and leaders.
Exactly.
Marines who are constantly striving to improve, to learn from their mistakes, and to push themselves beyond their limits. Because in the end, that's what sets the Marine Corps apart.
That's what makes them the best.
And that's what ultimately ensures its continued success on the battlefield.
Absolutely.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into MCDP 7, Chapter 3.
We have.
From the importance of having an adaptive learning environment to the power of technology as a training tool.
Yeah.
It's clear that the Marine Corps really takes a holistic approach, right?
Me too.
To preparing its Marines for the complexities of modern warfare. But one of the most intriguing concepts that we've touched on is this idea of mental imagery.
It's a technique that's often overlooked, but the chapter makes a compelling case for its effectiveness.
It does.
Mental imagery is essentially the ability to visualize yourself in different situations, mentally rehearsing your actions, and even anticipating how the enemy might react.
Okay, so it's not just about daydreaming. Right. It's about actively using your imagination to prepare
Right,
for
exactly.
those potential challenges.
Yeah.
So imagine, for example, you're a Marine
Mm-hmm.
preparing for a mission
Okay.
in a dense jungle environment.
All right, so you could use mental imagery
Yeah.
to mentally walk through that mission step by step.
Okay.
Visualize yourself encountering an ambush, hear the sounds of gunfire, feel that adrenaline surge, and rehearse how you would react under pressure.
Wow.
What commands would you give? How would you maneuver your fire team?
Right, so it's like running a simulated mission in your mind,
It is
preparing yourself for the unexpected.
precisely. And the chapter highlights how this mental preparation can actually reduce stress and improve performance in real-world situations.
It makes sense because if you've already mentally rehearsed the scenario,
Right.
if you visualize yourself reacting calmly and decisively, you're much more likely to do that when it actually happens.
You are, yeah.
It's like practicing for a big game or presentation. The more you rehearse,
Right.
the more confident and prepared you feel when that moment arrives.
Exactly. And the benefits of mental imagery go beyond just reducing stress and improving performance.
Okay.
The chapter also suggests that it can help Marines identify potential weaknesses in their plans.
Oh, interesting.
As you mentally rehearse a mission, you might realize, oh, there's a gap in our communication plan,
Okay.
or identify a potential vulnerability in our tactical approach.
So mental imagery can act as a sort of internal risk assessment tool,
It can.
helping Marines to identify and mitigate potential problems
Exactly.
before they actually occur.
Yeah, and this applies not only to tactical scenarios, but to, all aspects of leadership.
Wow.
Imagine a Marine leader who has to deliver difficult news to their unit or make a tough decision under pressure.
Right.
By mentally rehearsing these situations, they can prepare themselves emotionally, think through different approaches, and ultimately become more effective leaders.
It seems like mental imagery can be a really powerful tool
It is.
for personal and professional development.
It really is. And, alongside mental imagery, the chapter emphasizes the importance of reflection.
Yeah.
It encourages Marines to take the time to process their experiences, to analyze their actions, and to learn from both their successes and their failures.
So it's not just about doing, it's also about thinking about what you've done
Right?
and why you did it and how you could do it better next time.
Exactly. It's about turning those experiences into knowledge, into wisdom that you can carry with you throughout your career.
I like that.
The chapter even quotes General James Mattis,
Okay.
who famously said, "Solitude allows you to reflect while others are reacting."
Wow, that's good.
It's about taking that time to step back, to think deeply about what happened, why it happened, and what you could have done differently.
And it's not just about reflecting on your own experiences, right? The chapter also encourages Marines to discuss their experiences with each other.
They do share those lessons learned,
Share those lessons learned.
create that culture of continuous learning and improvement.
That's an important point.
It is. It's about recognizing that learning in the Marine Corps is a collective responsibility, a shared commitment to becoming the best fighting force in the world.
That's a powerful statement.
It is, and underpinning this commitment is the critical role of the Marine instructor. They're not just teachers, they're mentors, guides, and role models, shaping that learning environment and inspiring Marines to reach their full potential.
And so the chapter describes that ideal instructor as someone who is not only knowledgeable and skilled, but also empathetic,
Right, exactly.
understanding the challenges that their Marines face
Mm-hmm.
and able to adapt their approach accordingly.
Yeah, so it's not just about being tough and demanding, it's about being a supportive and inspiring leader
Right.
who genuinely wants to see their Marines succeed.
And the chapter stresses the importance of selecting the right Marines
does.
for these instructor roles,
Mm.
individuals who have done well themselves
Right.
and can now pass on their hard-earned knowledge and experience.
Mentorship, yeah.
It's like creating a cycle of continuous learning,
Exactly.
driven by those who have proven themselves on the battlefield
Mm-hmm.
and are now committed to developing the next generation of Marine leaders.
That's the goal.
That's a powerful vision of mentorship and leadership within the Corps.
And ultimately, all of this learning, all of this training, all of this mental and physical preparation, it's geared towards one ultimate objective: winning in combat.
Right, because in the end, That's what it's all about.
It is.
All the tactics, the technology, the leadership principles, they're all in service to that one ultimate objective: to be victorious on the battlefield, to protect our nation, and to defend the values that we hold dear.
And the chapter leaves us with a powerful message. The way you train is the way you'll fight.
That's a great way to put it. So if you want to win, if you want to be ready for the challenges that lie ahead, you have to train like it's real.
You do.
You have to embrace that warrior-scholar mindset. You have to push yourself beyond your limits physically, mentally, and intellectually.
Absolutely.
And you have to never stop learning, never stop adapting, and never stop striving to be the best Marine you can be.
Because the future of the Corps and the security of our nation depends on it.
That's a powerful message to end on.
It is.
This deep dive into MCDP 7, Chapter 3, has been incredibly insightful.
It has been. Great chapter.
It's clear that the Marine Corps is committed to creating a learning environment that fosters adaptability, critical thinking, and a relentless pursuit of excellence.
They are, yeah.
And it's inspiring to see how the Corps is embracing innovative techniques like mental imagery and leveraging technology to enhance training and development.
It is.
This chapter is a testament to the Corps' commitment to preparing its Marines for the complexities of modern warfare and ensuring that they are equipped with the knowledge, the skills, and the mindset to succeed on the battlefield and beyond.
Well said.
Until next time, keep diving deep.